Well, everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer. And welcome to Wasteland Talks, my new talk show where, honestly, whatever topic comes to mind this week. And my friend Adam here is joining me as we're going to start a special series on this talk show called Greatest of All Time. Didn't want to just call it GOATs because I felt like kind of feels tacky at this point just to be like, it's a GOAT. But no, so we are... But we are talking about one of the greatest directors of all time, Alfred Hitchcock. So basically our format here is we're going to talk about some of our points why we think Hitchcock is one of the greatest filmmakers of all time. And we're going to talk about our favorite film from his. So Adam, thanks for coming on.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'll talk about Hitchcock anytime you need me to.
And that's what we're going to do now. So Adam, what are some of the main points that you would argue that makes Hitchcock one of the greatest directors of all time?
I've got a few. I probably should start off with the fact that he was probably the most inventive. Not the most inventive. He was very inventive in his direction. He wasn't afraid to use special effects, even though you look back now and you see some things that are kind of, they don't hold up very well. But at the time, they were quite exciting and quite groundbreaking. Just the stair falling scene in Psycho, even when Jimmy Stewart falls off the balcony and rear window. Even though it looks very poor now, the whole Mount Rushmore scene from North by Northwest, that kind of stuff wasn't pushing some boundaries. I mean, some stuff like that might have been done, but I haven't seen it. But he really liked to push the boundaries, and he really maximized the medium at the time. There's an example of there's a great scene in Notorious where you start from the top of the balcony inside, and you pan down basically to a close up of a key in the protagonist's hand. And for Notorious, I think came out in 1940 something 8 maybe. For that time, that is one of them. Even now, it's an incredible shot. Which, I'm sure it's been ripped off 1,000 times, but it's such a great shot to see. And that was, sorry, that's the main point. Sorry, I feel like I'm dribbling a bit.
And I think that's definitely one of the things that makes him stand out so much is the technical aspects of his direction. And whether it's a mix of live shots and matte paintings, whether it's, how he made Vertigo work, the whole having the camera move in 2 dimensions at the same time with the lens changing and the actual physical movement of the camera, because that distortion's so jarring. The first time you watch it, you're just like, whoa. And you're just like, I don't like this. And exactly, because you're not supposed to, because Jimmy Stewart sure as hell's not liking it. And like with the birds, and like, obviously, sometimes he used real birds in a room enclosed with an actress. Might not have been the best idea, but sure got horror out of it, especially out of her. But like, just from like the technical aspects, and like he made an action thriller in North by Northwest, and like that action's really impressive, especially like the crop dusting scene with that the plane and everything. And I think one of the things that you could easily forget is that he started doing this in like the 40s, when like this is still early days of filmmaking, and he's doing some incredible things early on. And then he revolutionized a lot, and like how like the fact that you don't see a single stab hit in Psycho in that shower scene, but you feel like you're being mauled. And the fact that like that editing is just so perfect to make that scene work the way that it does.
It's incredible. A lot of that was to do with censorship. Like he really knew his way around the censors, and so a lot of that is the invention, being the mother of necessity, or mother of sorry, I know what I'm saying. I've had a few beers. It's late at night over here. yeah, but he was even inventive. Look, his movies in the 30s, even what I really figured last night. I watched Rear Window last night again for maybe the second or third time, but I was thinking about what does make him great, and I think by and large it's his use of space, especially in Rear Window. The way he uses space. If you look at his films like Rope, where it's one room, it's 1.5 rooms basically. But then you can do the grand epics of North by Northwest and those big scale things. Even Strangers on the Train is a bit more broad and far reaching than those type of closed set movies. I think for me, the way he could change his style and the way he immerses the viewer in, and he can. I think he was the best manipulative director of all time. Some of his films, they really have you by the balls, for lack of a better word, because he really drags you in and makes you feel what he wants you to feel at the time he wants you to feel it. I don't know any other director that can do that. Maybe Spielberg gets close with a lot of his films, but not all of them that Hitchcock does.
Which I think one of my main points too is the way that he can manipulate tension and suspense. The master of suspense. That's
just a shot of a pocket, or because a key's in there or something. It's remarkable.
Yeah, and the fact that he knew how to stage everything perfectly. And I remember the anecdote about what's the difference between shock and suspense. You're watching a lunch, and you just see these people chatting, and then boom, they explode. That's shock.
Yes.
Suspense is that they keep cutting back to a bomb underneath the table.
Yes.
And Hitchcock knew the difference, because what do a lot of like horror and thriller directors lean on? Jump scares, shock. Yeah. It's just like, bah! And just like obnoxious music out of nowhere. He's able to make you feel that suspense, that tension using montage. It's really close to my favorite, but it is not my favorite that I'm going to talk about. But Strangers on a Train.
Yep.
That montage cutting back and forth between Guy having that intense game of tennis and Bruno trying to get that lighter out of that gutter. And that sewer drain, and building that tension. It's like, oh my God, is he going to finish this match in time? Is he going to stop Bruno? And
such a great example.
Also, I have to say this. So, low-key, one of my favorite line deliveries from any movie ever is when Guy punches Bruno in the face, and he's lying there on the couch, and he's like, you shouldn't have done that, Guy. And it just like gets me every time.
It's been a while since I've seen Strangers on a Train, but that does ring a bell.
And it's just like, because I'm blanking on the actor's name who plays Bruno. He just kills it that whole entire movie. He is just so fantastic. And that's the thing, because like it's the suspense and building of the tension, and like the chasing Madeline up the stairs in Vertigo. Is he going to be able to make it to the top? And you keep cutting back to Jimmy Stewart's face looking like scared as hell. And then the Vertigo shot and her running up the steps, and you keep cutting back and cutting back. The way he used editing, the editing in his films were so pitch perfect to keep building up tension.
He would have had a big say over that editing, obviously. I guess as most directors do. So that's another really good point. Like he did. That's part of that manipulation I was talking about. He knew what he wanted you to see at the right time every time. It was well. When I say every time, I've seen a few of his movies that he made in the 70s lately, and he really does fall downhill fast, I think, with some of his later movies, because they're not. I've done some ratings of them, and I may be given an extra half a star just because it's Hitchcock, but some of them aren't awesome.
I guess Adam, do you have any other main points that you wanted to throw out there?
No, I don't think so. I think that was basically it. I'm sure there's plenty, but yeah, I think that's the main points for sure.
I think one of the ones that stood out to me, because like I was sitting here trying to think of like main points, and main point of like just the direction's impeccable. Like you said, like the technical aspects of how he's able to film and how he pushes boundaries is great. We talked about the manipulation and the building of tension. And this might be just like a personal thing for me, but because, a lot of prestige pictures are, dramas, and dramas by like, I don't know why, but a lot of critics just like dramas up here.
Yeah.
And all the lowly genres down here, all those genre filmmaking. Hitchcock elevated genre filmmaking. And there's only like, I feel like there's a distinct group of directors who were able to accomplish that. And Hitchcock didn't often make a straight drama. You have a thriller, you have horror, and like North by Northwest is basically an action movie. It's an action thriller. And it's like he was able to elevate those to levels where it's like Vertigo is considered one of the greatest films of all time. And sometimes even like the AFI has it at number 1. And that is disturbing psychological.
That blows me away. But that actually blows me away because I think Vertigo is his most overrated film by a long way. I thought Vertigo was quite dumb in having the doppelganger thing. That just really rang so stupid to me. And it really took me out of the film. I've only seen it the once. I do need to watch it again. But my first viewing, I was like, this is just stupid. I couldn't suspend my disbelief for Vertigo.
We'll have an interesting conversation when we talk about our favorite.
I know we're going to go. I'm going a bit off track here. But
and like, Psycho is one of the most iconic horror films ever. And he pushed boundaries of like taboo things. Like
he created a genre with Psycho, really, that psychological thriller that he created. I don't know if there was another film before that, but from what I understand from the little film history I know, that he really created that genre.
Yeah, and because like to me it's like there's Hitchcock, there's like John Ford, who is like the iconic Western director. I'd put Leone up there too, just spaghetti westerns. You have John Carpenter, who didn't give a crap about ever making a drama. It's just, I'm gonna make these weird genre films, whether they're action, horror, sci-fi, anything. And for a decent chunk of his career, made them great. Mid-90s and past.
After Scream 1,
and I think he realized he needed to stop making movies. And you have like John Carpenter of the world, you have like James Cameron. And like he's made like 8 movies. And like probably like the most straightforward drama, is like historical drama is Titanic, with a lot of romance in it. But like
Terminator 2 is not a historical drama.
It's gonna be. I'm convinced. But like, he has his Terminator films, he has Aliens, even like some like True Lies. I love True Lies. That's one of the most unabashedly enjoyable action movies.
True Lies is awesome. True Lies is great. Yeah, it's really great. I think John Carpenter. Sorry, not John Carpenter. Bloody James Cameron. He's like the Apple of directors because he always takes something that already exists and makes it better, right? He did that with Aliens, T2, even though he did Terminator, right? But he still made T2. But then even the Titanic, I mean, that was a borrowed property. Maybe Avatar doesn't fit into that, but anyway, sorry.
Well, and now on some level, it just makes me sad that he's just going to make Avatar movies for forever. But we'll see.
I watched Avatar again the other week, and I enjoyed it. It's a good bad movie. Like, he created a fantastic world, and the message is fantastic. But there's so much of it that's just so annoying. So I'm hoping. I can't wait for Avatar 2 because I'm sure he's reinvented the medium again some way. It's gonna be great.
So like I'm hoping so after all this time.
Yeah.
But like, there's stuff in it like unobtainium, and I'm just like,
that's the worst. It's the most frustrating thing, unobtainium.
There's like
something else.
There's just certain laziness about the narrative and some of the script, and it's just like, and that's why I get like everyone's just like, it's just Dancing with Wolves with blue aliens. It's just The Last Samurai. It's just Pocahontas. And fair, it is exactly that same story over and over and over again.
Yeah.
But I hope that he spends more time trying to make the narratives in these sequels a little bit more ambitious, as ambitious as the technology was. But like Hitchcock, obviously getting back to Hitchcock, it's like he took genres, sometimes molded and created genres that were taboo. And like, it's not a wonder that he didn't get a ton of love from the Oscars, because like they weren't going to be nominating things like that, especially in like the 50s and the 60s. They barely do that enough now.
Exactly. I was going to say they're still doing that now. They don't give those visionaries the accolades they deserve, because they do just follow that same old dramatic story. I mean, this year's Oscars, the more I think about it, the more I'm a bit frustrated by some of it.
Because like, if you really think about it, I guess the weirdest movie out of them is Don't Look Up and Nightmare Alley.
Nightmare Alley. Look, I love Don't Look Up, and I think it deserves a nomination. I'm listening to you in the writers' room. You always kept bagging out Don't Look Up. I'm like, okay, it's you.
It's no network.
I really love it. I think it's it's a 5-star for me.
So I just want to clarify something. I did give it 3 stars and actually enjoyed watching the movie and would watch it again. I'm just like, and that's the thing. It's definitely the most divisive film from this year that's getting Oscar consideration.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's more deserving of some other films that I felt like were, because people look at Rotten Tomatoes and stuff like that and use that as a gauge for things, and
that means nothing.
It's probably not a great way of gauging things, but like, it's definitely more deserving than Bohemian Rhapsody of getting nominated for Best Picture.
Oh God, that's one of my biggest heartbreaks of all time. Rami Malek winning that. I don't like Rami Malek now because he won the Oscar, and that's on me. That's nothing to do with him. But Bradley Cooper should have won that year for A Star Is Born. He was sensational in A Star Is Born. And how Rami Malek won, and then Taron Egerton didn't even get looked at for Rocket Man.
I love Rocket Man so much.
Rocket Man's amazing. Rocket Man is so good.
But like, it's interesting now today, because like, when was the last time you had a horror thriller or anything like quite like that in Oscar contention? What, Silence of the Lambs? And that's literally 30 years old. Yeah. And won Best Picture.
And even that's kind of a surprise that even got through, right?
I'm trying to think how that happened. Like,
it's a procedural. But Silence of the Lambs is a procedural movie. People, I think, again, it's a good movie, but I think that even that's overrated because Hopkins' performance.
Well, let's be frank here. He should not have been nominated for Best Actor. He had 16 minutes of screen time, and he's not even the main character.
No.
Like, he's not even the main antagonist. Like, Buffalo Bill's the one killing people in this movie. And that's the thing. So, like, that was definitely some category fraud going on there. But, like, that's the thing. Like, Hitchcock worked in a place that wasn't expected to be great, and he elevated those films because, like, a lot of, like, you're gonna talk about like serial killers and stuff like that. That's generally like schlocky kind of like stuff that you wouldn't expect to have the level of craft and just panache into putting those films together.
Yeah, 1,000%. Yeah.
And it's the same thing of like, it's interesting because like watching like 9 out of 10 Netflix documentaries are just sleazy true crime stuff. And then you actually watch one that's like with a lot of respect and like not manipulative and stuff like that. And you're like, holy crap. Like this is actually like a well-made documentary that isn't trying to like, it's like, but then this happened. Because like that's how like 90% of them are. But like
I don't watch them. I just
there's just like so many of them.
They're right.
Just a conveyor belt of constant Netflix documentaries. But like I feel like those were my main points for Hitchcock. It's like he was such an impeccable director from like every technical aspect, pushing the boundaries. He legitimately is almost unmatched in being able to create suspense in a film. And then the fact that he elevated genres that had no prestige at that point or consideration and made them things that were needed to be watched. And, people have been called the next Hitchcock before, M. Night Shyamalan. And I love his first
three. Maybe the closest.
I'm like, it would be interesting because like, I guess the closest that I would consider, and I think most of them need a lot more like movies under their belt, is a lot of what the directors at A24 is pumping out.
Yeah.
Like Eggers, the Ari Asters, the Robert Eggers, those directors are hitting those genres hard. But the thing is, it's like quite disturbingly. And it's going to be interesting when you see them down the line. Because like, it's funny because I have them in my director's tournament. But the weirdest thing is like, if one of them gets picked, I'm done in 3 weeks.
Yeah, you haven't got much to talk about. Yeah.
And like both of them have their third feature-length films coming out this year. Because you have The Northman and then Joaquin Phoenix in Disappointment Boulevard, I think is the name of the film that Ari Aster has coming out. But like Robert Eggers really leans into those folk horror stories, with like The Witch and The Lighthouse. Ari Aster with, my God, Hereditary. Hereditary is one of the most devastating genre films I have watched in a long time.
I'm going to add it to my watch list.
It's like, how I describe it is, it's going to beat you down for 2/3 of the movie with just pure, unadulterated human drama. And then when you don't have any left in the tank, the movie's just like, just imagine if this is a horror movie. And you're just I'm like,
right.
No, I can't handle anymore. And that's how it really messes with you. And then by the time the third act happens, you're just like, oh my God, what's going on? And
is it exhausting? Okay.
Yeah. And like, I remember leaving the theater just being like, wow, that hit way harder than I anticipated that movie hitting me.
Wow.
And you also like, I love Alex Garland, who has 3 feature-length films and a mini-series under his belt, because he had that Devs mini-series.
Devs is good.
And then I love Annihilation. I love Ex Machina. I love that movie so much.
Amazing,
Also,
he's written a few though, hasn't he? Too.
Yeah,
Garland. And he's written a few good ones.
Pretty sure he ghost directed Dread.
Oh, okay.
So that's a rumor. That goes in the same as like Spielberg ghost directing Poltergeist, the Wachowskis ghost directing V for Vendetta. Like those are all like those like rumored like.
I don't know. I think the V for Vendetta is too good to be directed by the Wachowskis.
I think because like I'm trying to think like timeline. Well, yeah, because that came out like at least a few years after the Matrix sequels. I don't know. I could definitely like watching Poltergeist. I'm like, yeah, that could totally have been Spielberg actually directing this movie.
And he had a bit to do with the Goonies. And Goonies has Spielberg written all over it.
Well, and that was Richard Donner, right?
Richard Donner, yeah.
And rest in peace. Well, because we're still getting Lethal Weapon 5 though, with Mel Gibson directing.
Right.
Right. They have to have the subtitle now. We are way too old for this shit. And if they don't say Lethal Weapon 5, we're way too old for this shit, I'm going to be so disappointed.
If the opening scene isn't Danny Glover getting wheeled out of a nursing home, then I'm turning it off. I'm walking out.
But anyway, so Adam, I think it's about time to talk about what's your favorite Hitchcock film?
Yeah, North by Northwest. I make very little secret of that. It's everything about that movie just snaps, crackles, and pops on screen. I watched it. It has been a little bit since I watched it, maybe 5 or 6 months. I actually got awesome. You can see my Hitchcock wall behind me, which I just put up a couple of weekends ago. But I got a great Hitchcock box set. And yeah, I've been going through those Blu-rays, like these 18 or 20 movies in there. And North by Northwest, I remember seeing it as a kid when I just wouldn't appreciate it. You know, it was something my mum showed me. Like, this was a great movie for my time. You know, I was probably 12. I'm like, okay, right, it's an old movie. But rewatching it again, especially that scene when he first gets on the train with Eva Marie Saint and the dialogue between them across the table, that is Tarantino. Wish he could write dialogue like that. It's one of the best written scripts. I think it was actually won the Oscar for original screenplay. Ernest Lehman. It's just so much about it. It's so astonishing. It's inventive. One of the greatest things about it is that the very end, the very last 20 seconds where they're on Mount Rushmore and he leans over and saves Eva Marie, but then it transitions straight to then him pulling her up to the bunk bed in the train. It's so fantastic. Yeah, it's so fantastic. And stuff you don't see or I've not noticed in modern filmmaking. It might happen, but I've not noticed it to the extent I did in North by Northwest, where it just kind of like, whoa, okay, that's amazing. But just the intrigue of that, the suspense, the young Walter Matthau. I did not recognise that was Walter Matthau. That spun me out. Oh, Martin
Landau, yeah.
Sorry, not Walter Matthau. Man, I'm mixing up these names tonight. I got John Carpenter mixed up with Wes Craven earlier. You'll notice it on the playback.
I just kind of let it go.
I picked myself up on you straight away.
We're not professionals here. We just love movies.
No.
Leave us alone.
You know, I'm 5 beers in, so I've got an excuse.
But like, this movie would have been infinitely even better if Walter Matthau just shows up. Can you imagine if Walter Matthau was like the government guy? That would have been great. And he's just like this. That would give that a whole different dimension. He's just like this more crotchety like government agent. It's like you causing problems for me.
That's so
but
funny.
Yeah, Martin Landau as like the big henchman of the film. Like obviously
doesn't even look like Martin Landau to me. Like, it's just,
well, because that's the thing. I think I've only had, besides this, I feel like I've only seen him as an old man. So it's like, because like, to be fair, honestly, the most I've seen him is Bela Lugosi. Pull the strings from Ed Wood, which you want to have an Oscar conversation with people. That's definitely a conversation starter. Because Samuel L. Jackson will have that conversation with you too.
Really?
Samuel L. Jackson's still butthurt that he didn't get the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor for Pulp Fiction because Martin Landau got it for Ed Wood.
Right.
Still talks about it. Still mad about it.
Does he?
He does.
Really?
Yep.
Oh, that's interesting.
But and James Mason is just like a great villain. Ava Marie Saint's so great because you have her in films like On the Waterfront and then North by Northwest, and like it's Cary Grant,
gorgeous as well, and Cary Grant. Cary Grant.
he's like
I love Cary Grant.
next level leading man. It's just like
Yeah,
he makes it just look like he needs to put in no effort. He's just like he could just like walk on set and just be like, I'm Cary Grant and you're all gonna pay attention to me.
Yeah.
And not to belittle what he does, but like he makes it seem like it's that easy that he could do that. And and it's such a perfect character for this film too, because he's just like this socialite and just like he's just so unassuming. It's like he just gets caught up in all this ridiculousness.
Yeah.
And that's the fun of it.
It is that sorry. It is. I was going to say one of Hitchcock's greatest tropes is his mistaken identity.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's so many of his movies are mistaken identity, and Cary Grant does it at least twice, maybe a few times in these films. Him and Jimmy Stewart are, the biggest collaborators. It's like Scorsese and DiCaprio or whatever. But yeah, just reaching back to your point, Cary Grant just carries it off so easy. That whole unassuming. It was, it's not me. It's great. He's very great.
I remember the first time I actually saw this was I took a cinema class in high school, and we spent a good month watching Hitchcock films. And
sweet.
Then we had a project. We had to pick a Hitchcock film that we didn't see in class and write a paper about it. And I'm trying to remember the exact ones we did watch in class. I'm pretty sure 100% Psycho, Strangers on a Train, I'm pretty sure, watched in class. And I couldn't remember what the third one was. But the point was, I walked, because like my high school was down the street from my town's library. And I didn't have a computer at home until I was like halfway through high school. So like I would go to if I needed to do something on the computer, I would go to the library after school. And I go to the library, I'm like, what Hitchcock movies do they have on DVD that I could borrow? And I'm like looking through them, just like North by Northwest. I'm like, well, there's my paper. He just took North by Northwest. And it was so different. Like I was sitting there and like as a high school, like as a teenager, just being like, this is very different than what we were watching in class. And like, and that's and it shows the range and the fact that like Hitchcock made an action movie that really, really works and is very suspenseful and thrilling. And the amount of spoofs of the Mount Rushmore scene in media, Family Guy thing. Where was it?
Simpsons have done it too.
Mel Gibson falls off the side of Mount Rushmore. It's like, don't worry, Lois. Christians don't believe in gravity. And I'm just like, oh my God. And it just, that kind of stuff. And like, it's so iconic and it's full of great set pieces. Like, it feels like a Bond movie in terms of like, here's all the great, like memorable set pieces that you remember.
Yep.
It reminds me a lot of, actually, a lot of From Russia with Love, because like it even has a train. But the thing is, because it's like what I recall most, like I love From Russia with Love. That's one of my favorite Bond films, and it has like those iconic set pieces. Like I know on top of that mountain, that helicopter's coming down at him, which also North by Northwest, the Duster coming, because. When did North by Northwest come out?
59. 1959.
Then the director of From Russia with Love was like, I watched me some Hitchcock. And like, him driving the boat and having that boat chase at the end of From Russia with Love, and he drops all the gas tanks and then shoots the flare gun and just like, bam, like blow it up. It's like all those things throughout, and like you have a great henchman and all those kinds of things, and it's just like Hitchcock could have totally made a Bond movie.
Yeah, easily.
Which would have been better than more than half of them. Like by default.
Look, I love Bond movies, but geez, they're hard to go back to and watch. Like I remember really loving Thunderball, and I watched it last year leading up to No Time to Die. I was like, oh. Okay, I like it, but I probably shouldn't like it the way I do. Because I just, you kind of hate like it.
I'm just sitting there like, Tom Jones. That theme playing at the beginning, I'm like, I'm in a happy mood the rest of the movie. But like, I know like that was the first one that like Bond was here, and there's like boop, like it dropped in quality after like those first three Bond films are like iconic, and then you had like 90% of Roger Moore's are just stupid.
They're so cheesy, but there's some of those Roger Moore ones are still my favorite. Like I love Man with the Golden Gun. I don't know why, but I love Man with the Golden Gun. And I know it's dumb.
There's so many bad things about it, but there's so many great things about it too. And I think that's the frustrating part. Because like Christopher Lee as a Bond villain is just like next level, like some of the best ever. But yeah, so basically what I'm saying is Hitchcock made a better Bond film than like 90% of Bond films with North by Northwest. And
absolutely.
The funny thing was like he's not even a special agent. He just people think he is.
How cool would Cary Grant be as Bond too, right?
Right?
American though, but still, you'd have it.
Most Americans wouldn't know a difference.
No, I don't think people would care. Even at the time, I don't think people would care. If it was Cary Grant being Bond, you'd be like, sweet. I don't care if he's supposed to be British. It's Cary Grant being Bond. It's like,
there you go.
Anyway,
now we'll have an interesting conversation now because my favorite's Vertigo. And this is I feel like out of all Hitchcock films, this is the one that like digs under my skin the most. And this has some really messed up, complex, like human connections and like, because obviously it feels like two movies. Because you have like the first part where it's just like you have Jimmy Stewart's character, he experienced the Vertigo, and like the opening sequence of this movie is one of the best hooks of a movie I can think of. And you're just like left being like, holy crap. And
there's some very great filmmaking.
And obviously like the whole plot that's set up in the film, which this movie's like 75 years old. So like, if I'm going to ruin Vertigo for you, like, I'm sorry. But like, a lot of the plot that is like not like the narrative plot, but like the plot in the film that is put together is convoluted and ridiculous. And you do have to suspend some of your disbelief because some of it, it's like, got away with this? But the thing is, it's like, obviously it's either you consider this all convenience or just horrible people taking advantage of a very specific human being who has some bad problems. And also it's a combination of them. But the thing is, it's like watching the voyeuristic, just stalking more or less throughout the first half of this film and how that's filmed. And like Jimmy Stewart plays such a complex character in this because it's like, if it wasn't Jimmy Stewart, how much would you like Scotty? And I feel like Hitchcock's playing with like, this is Jimmy Stewart. And like most like American audiences are going to be like, we love Jimmy Stewart. And Jimmy Stewart's an asshole in this movie.
Yeah.
And like his relationship with like his ex who still hangs out with all the time, like that's uncomfortable to begin with. And how he's like this infatuation that he just has with his friend's wife. And it's that kind of thing where it's just like, when you take a step back and I really think about this, it's like, do I really like Scotty? No. But I think he's fascinating to follow throughout this film.
Yeah.
And it only gets even crazier after, that snap of reality that he has, which that's one of the most unnerving sequences put in film with like all the special effects and the music and stuff like that. And I remember I saw this in theaters for its 70th anniversary. And that was such an experience in the theater, sitting there watching like the scene where he's like his head floating through like that purple scape of colors and all kinds of stuff like that. I'm just like, it was a whole different kind of experience in a theater watching that. And the second part of this film is one of the most disturbing psychological thrillers, with how he is just gaslighting this young woman. And you just feel like, I just am on edge the whole entire time. Like, I've seen this movie a decent amount of times at this point, and even I'm still sitting there like, oh my God, what's he gonna do? Like, at some point you're just sitting there, I'm like, is he gonna murder her? Because like, you're feeling like, when did he turn into like a serial killer? And that climax going back to the tower at the end, you're just like, I white knuckle it. Like that tension of him like storming her up the steps, the music, because like the music in that film is just on point. And I have some of it on my Spotify. Like I'll just be like driving to music from Vertigo, probably ratcheting up some tension that you probably don't want to have while you're driving, but you know. But you're sitting there and great performances, and it's something different from Hitchcock because it's not like a whodunit, it's not like a murder. Like it is those things, but it's not. It has those things thrown in, but that's not really what the film is trying to focus on. It's trying to focus on like this deep-seated trauma, and what happens if that trauma just spirals, because Scotty spirals all the way up until the end when he finally, like, there's like this sick snap back into reality he has in the climax of the film, and you're just like, oh my God, he's back, isn't he? And now I'm afraid, because what's he gonna do to this woman? And like, what would have happened if what happened didn't happen? Like, how far would he have gone? And then like that ending, you're just like, wait, what? And you're just like, oh my God. And I think it's one of the most intense and when I was watching it for like the first time, it's one of the most unpredictable rides that I think I've had watching a movie in a long time at that point. Because I'm just like, I don't know where this movie's going, and I don't know if I want to know where this movie's going, because this is going to some dark places, and it obviously winds up in some dark places. But
you're really selling it to me. I'm going to have to look. I was always going to watch it again anyway, but I might have to do it sooner rather than later, because admittedly I've only watched it once, and it was what month? We were almost in March, so that was probably 6 or 8 months ago. And the main detail I remember is that this girl looks like is the same girl. But the whole time I was taken out of the movie thinking, is she just the same girl pretending she's not? But then it plays that she isn't, but she is, right?
Yes, because like
she is actually the same girl, but
it's
pretending.
So it's the same actress playing both these characters, who because there are two different characters technically, because you do have the wife, and then you have this other character. What does the wife really look like? We don't know, because I don't think we've ever actually saw her, except seeing her body getting yeeted off the top of that steeple in that one moment. Because like all we know is this version of the wife who's portrayed by Kim Novak's character, and then you see what Kim Novak's character really looks like in the second half of the film, and then you just have that whole entire like there's some toxic abusive relationship going on in that second half of that film. And I guess it's like, I think the hardest thing about Vertigo is if you need like a strong emotional connection to your lead, I don't think you're going to have that in this movie, nor do I think you should. Like, just putting it out there, I'm like, I don't think you should really empathize here too much with Scotty. But the thing is, it's like, I feel like it feels more of a commentary on how far trauma can really drill somebody down and what it can do to someone. And
that's a good point.
And the thing is, if you could get past that, because if you can't, then no, this isn't going to work. And also, if you can't get past the fact that like some of this convoluted plot is really convenient, and I'm confusing because like the actual plot in the movie, not the narrative plot, the plot in the movie takes a lot of liberties with a lot of things, and I don't get how that all worked out perfectly for this guy in the end, this husband, because I'm like, he got so damn lucky that this worked out the way that it did.
Yeah. And then you give me your appreciation for it, for sure.
Well, that's what we're here for, right? To help give appreciation to different movies and stuff like that. But like, it's one of those kinds of films that like digs under my skin, and it's just like, it just sits there. Cause like, it's not a straight up horror movie. It's a strange
psychological thriller again, right? It's kind of a psychological thriller, like in the vein of Psycho, but not Psycho, obviously.
Yeah. Cause we don't have like, there is murder, but like, it's not that kind of thing. We're not getting any oh my God, getting stabbed in the shower moments. It's all like maybe Jimmy Stewart's insanity is slowly getting murdered throughout this movie, which I'm convinced it is. But yeah, that's my favorite. So honestly, for those watching this video, you should check out both of them, and you should check out a lot more Hitchcock if you haven't.
Check out lots of Hitchcock.
Because there is a lot to enjoy out there. But Adam, do you have any last minute thoughts before we wrap up talking about one of the greatest directors of all time?
I do, but I would probably carry us on for a very long time, because I would just start talking about his other movies that are great. If we're going to talk about recommends, but we won't do that. Just check out as many of his films as you possibly can.
There you go.
As long as they're made before the 70s. Those ones first.
No, they can't be great forever. Unless you're Scorsese. Just somehow still going. Or Spielberg. Some of them I'm just like, what? How are you still making these movies like this?
Passion. Getting paid millions for doing what you love. How horrible.
Exactly. And on that note, that's a perfect way to just wrap up. But Adam, thank you again for coming on. And thank all of you out there for always tuning in and supporting your Wasteland Reviewer.